Welcome to Strange Weekly News. In this show, we'll be taking a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled Fringe Science and Fringe Phenomena. Each news item we go over in the show, I will place all the links to them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Welcome to all my first-time viewers and listeners. Thank you for coming by. And thank you to everyone watching this live. Zenza, Sever, Hides, Jonacide, Les, Sweet, UAP Videos, Kurt, Cassidy. Welcome, everyone. Kathy as well. Today is going to be an awesome show. Before we get started, I would like to mention that on Tuesday was the top 5 occult UFO entity cases with pioneer Nathaniel Gillis, who researches the connection between interdimensional entities, aliens, and demons. There is a new space ambient music track that was just posted on my music channel called Cosmic Portals. This track is called Ice World Colony at 437 hertz, which is a frequency that is supposed to soothe the mind. So if you need help sleeping, relaxing, meditating, check it out. The link is in the description box below. And that channel, Cosmic Portals, has around 800 subs. So if you enjoy ambient music, subscribe to that music channel, Cosmic Portals. Let's hit 1,000 subscribers. Yesterday, Thursday, on Mysteries with the History with Jimmy Church from Fade to Black Radio, we covered mysterious ancient artifacts. If you're into the mysterious history or archaeology, this video is up your alley. But today is Weekly Strange News with my co-host, Pete from Creepy Little Book. Let's bring him in. Pete, my friend, how's it going? I think you're on mute. That's on. I got you. There we go.
Silly me. You think I'd be a little more professional at this after all these years.
After all these years. Come on, Pete.
So how do you do, Christina? Thank you so much for having me back. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
I am looking forward to this. This week is filled with just bizarre news. Everything that is weird, we're going to be covering that today, along with some UFO sightings and some science advancements as well. But let's start off with the UFO sighting, shall we?
Sounds great.
All right. I actually have a video of this UFO. So those that are watching this on YouTube, take a look at it. Tell us what you think about it. I'm trying to pull that up, but if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, jump over to YouTube because we will be sharing a lot of videos and pictures today, but I am having issues finding it. So, Pete, can you take it away? Tell us a little bit about this one, the semi-transparent triangular UFO.
Absolutely. So, one witness managed to capture a video of this bizarre sighting.
Got it.
And this short clip shows the unknown object floating effortlessly in the sky.
Yes. I mean, as most UFOs do, it seems very effortlessly, which is such a nice word. But I feel like at the same time, like if you say it 3 times fast, it's a tongue twister. Pete, try to say that 3 times fast.
Effortlessly. Effortlessly. Effortlessly.
Well, you definitely do it better than I do. So there's that. But with this UFO right here, the witness's name is not disclosed. However, it's believed that the length for this UFO is about 60 to 75 feet in length, and experts believe that the object, which is triangular in shape, can't be a jet or a plane of any kind because it doesn't move that way in this video. And I'm going to go ahead and play that again. As they had mentioned in this article, and I thought it's a little bit tedious, is that it said that it was semi-transparent, but as we're looking at this video, it looks pretty solid to me. So I'm like,
Absolutely.
Okay, it was a little misleading there.
You know, this looks to me like a physical craft. And that's a little old-fashioned in the world of UFO sightings. So often we see lights in the sky. But this image speaks to me of something that would be an object, a material object.
Yes, yes, it does look that way. This one took place in Salt Lake City in Utah not too long ago. And a lot of people right now are looking in the skies after this whole Chinese spy balloon fiasco. So when people were looking up, they're like, okay, I'm not seeing a spy balloon, but I am seeing this odd looking triangular UFO that looks solid. And again, in the article, it says semi transparent, but I'm like, that's kind of weird. But aside from that, there have been a lot of triangular UFO sightings, also looking at orbs as well, cigar shaped or tic tac. But it seems like with this triangular shaped craft, there's a lot of controversy. Some people think that it is a man made craft through a black project, or it genuinely is not from this earth. But, Pete, from what you've looked into, what can you tell us about triangular UFOs?
Well, the triangular UFOs go back about 30 to 40 years. Not so off the mark as when the stealth bomber was first introduced. So I think initially there might have been sightings of man-made craft that inspired these triangular UFOs. But I think that when it comes down to something like the Phoenix Lights, which was enormous, we're talking about another triangular shape involved with UFO sighting. It leaves a lot of room for questions. This one looks like a physical craft to me, whereas the Phoenix Lights were just that, lights in the sky. And personally, I kind of divide sightings into those two categories because they're so radically different. When you had the early contactees of the 50s and 60s, they were describing physical craft, hard objects that they could reach out and touch. Everybody from Woodrow Derenberger and his encounter with Indrid Cold to George Van Tassel and the Ashtar Galactic Command, we're talking about physical craft here. And as we move forward through the decades, past the 1980s and into the 1990s, then you start seeing these reports of lights in the sky, like the Gulf Breeze sightings. They were lights more than they were craft. So I kind of lean in the direction, and this is just over my recent, research and studies into this stuff, that there may be a reason to believe the physical craft associated with the UFO phenomenon are man-made. The lights in the sky, that's another mystery entirely.
You're absolutely right. Looking at lights in the sky, it's a lot harder to pinpoint for the most part because you're not really able to see the shape of the craft in most cases, not in all of them, but for the majority, people just define it as an orb and then kind of hope for the best from there. But looking at this one, and this article was just recently released in regards to this UFO sighting. And it seems that the witness approximately captured 4 videos that were in total about a minute and 30 seconds each. This video that I just shared on YouTube, I did snip it just to kind of give you the best parts of the video. But there is a longer version that you can find. That link is in the description box below, or at least it will be once this live show is over. For the most part, people that saw this, including one person by the name of Scott C. Waring of his that writes his blog UFO Sightings Daily, he was pretty stumped on this. He's like, it looks like a UFO. It looks very odd, and the object seems to have a clear or reflective hump on its lower center that was semi-transparent, as the video had shown. So that part is pretty interesting. But for the most part, people that have their UFO sightings, I am so grateful for those that actually take out their phone, record it, and post it online, because there's a big difference for just getting a witness testimony and kind of just feeling out what they're saying versus actually seeing that video. However, we're living in a really weird time right now where CGI is so easy to create with any kind of program. So that's where it's become really difficult when looking at UFO videos, is deciphering, is it legit? Is it just CGI? That's where it gets hard.
Absolutely. I think with the development of technology, going to become more difficult. We see what they're able to do with some of these deepfake sites. It's incredible how you can just swap an actor's face for your own these days, and the footage looks pretty good, even for amateur, work.
It does.
So who knows what could be done at the high levels of technology that might be possessed by those who have an interest in, perpetrating the UFO phenomenon.
Again, that's where it gets tricky. Valiant, thank you so much for supporting the channel. He says, "Greetings, Pete. Take me to your leader."
Valiant Thor? Oh, good old Valiant Thor.
Thank you so much. Pete, where do you want to go next with today's show? Which article do you want to cover?
Oh, you know what? I was very interested in the article concerning the invisible galaxy.
This one's cool.
Yes. The scientists have revealed an invisible galaxy from the early universe using space-time tricks predicted by Einstein. This one comes to us from Live Science. Now, apparently, using the ALMA telescope in Chile and Einstein's theory of relativity, scientists observed a young galaxy in the early universe that is invisible in nearly every wavelength. Incredible. An invisible galaxy. Now, my first thoughts on this are, how is that possible? Are we talking about a civilization that may have reached a zenith in technology so advanced that they are not only able to harness the energy of their galaxy, but cloak their galaxy from the rest of the universe?
That's an interesting theory, Pete, and not one that I considered, but that sounds something that belongs in a sci-fi book, and I'm fully reading it.
Oh, I take it far out as soon as I get there. I'm a big fan of the idea of the Orion Wars that occurred out in space millions of years ago. There's a book called The Prism of Lyra that speaks to this. It talks of all kinds of alien races that were involved in a great galactic conflict for millions of years, seeding other planets throughout the galaxies, and political strife. I mean, it is just space opera at its finest. All supposedly true. But when we get into the minutiae of exopolitics, I just find it so magnificent.
Well, the potential of attempting to cloak an entire galaxy, that sounds like a Type 3 civilization that could possibly be capable of that. A Type 3 on the Kardashev scale level of technology, of course, where they can harness the power of an entire galaxy. That is where that could potentially be plausible. But I think for our very simple human minds, it seems too out of this world.
Well, we are a primitive species in relation to what is possible, out there in the universe. Maybe even what's possible in our own history. A lot of technology might have been lost in the ancient past.
And all we can do is speculate on that. But for this, for what you had mentioned, it's very godlike. A Type 3 civilization could also be classified as godlike as well. And looking at ancient artifacts and the timeline of human history, I covered that yesterday with Jimmy on the just mysterious artifacts and relics around the world and technology in the ancient past. And there was this really good line in one article that I read that really stuck with me. And it was, ancient does not mean primitive.
Excellent.
And I'm like, wow, more people need to say this, because that resonated so much with me. Because when it comes to certain ancient tech, they're absolutely right. Obviously, it's so much more advanced than what archaeologists assumed for that time period. In the case, what we're looking at here with this, what we classify as an invisible galaxy, could it have been a Type 3 civilization? Or could it be that even in our super ancient past, so much has been lost, and maybe we had access to that technology that we no longer have now?
I firmly believe that. In a lot of my research points in that direction. That in the ancient past, I think there was about a 1,600-year period in the ancient past where technology could have advanced far beyond our imagination. Then I believe a worldwide cataclysm wiped it all out. And that could likely be the cycle for planets replete throughout the galaxies and the cosmos. Maybe that's why space is so quiet officially. because civilizations never reached that point where they become spacefaring. So maybe we're the first.
I mean, that seems like that would be really cool if that was the case. But I think knowing how old our galaxy is, how old our universe is, it doesn't seem plausible. As for this invisible galaxy, the young star forming galaxy is filled with dust and gas formed 2 billion years after the Big Bang. So the researchers report that an era more than 11 billion years ago, when the universe was about 1/6 its current size. So dim, distant, and choked with dust, the object is nearly invisible in every wavelength of light, as you had just mentioned, Pete. However, a trick of gravity initially predicted by Albert Einstein has given researchers a rare look at the invisible galaxy, which was just recently published in the Astrophysical Journal February 3rd. So this is a really big discovery. And while for some this could sound so boring, like, oh, but it's so far away, why does this matter? It's through these discoveries that can help us explore space more efficiently, in my opinion. But what about you? Why do you
Absolutely.
think this is important, this information?
At the end of the day, a lot of space information seems to, I don't know, fall by the wayside. People don't seem to have the obsession with space that they did decades ago. I remember being a kid when the shuttle would go up. It was a huge deal, and now we don't even have a viable space program on the books, at least. So I think it is important to focus on what's going on out in the cosmos, not only because we need to be concerned for planetary defense in the case of any near Earth object that could threaten us, but to understand our place in the universe. And to come across something like this, these distant galaxies that don't even register on our scales and abilities to measure these kind of things, that escape our sensors, detecting every wavelength of light that might be coming from them. That raises a red flag for me. There's got to be some intelligence behind that. I mean, who knows what kind of jumpstart a civilization that far out and that old might have. They might not even be corporeal at this point. Evolving into light beings or something outside the realm of possibility like that. I mean, it's impossible to comprehend how advanced that kind of civilization would be to, hide in that way. And
Well,
and maybe that technology is all over the place and we just don't have access to it.
you bring up a really good point. And even looking at the concepts of traveling the dimensions using
Mm.
portals, instant travel. You could even hang out at Skinwalker Ranch if you wanted to, right? Like believed to be portals and wormholes there. But you bring up a really great point, and I think that when we're looking into this, we can also bring in all of these other aspects that so far that we've understood, attempted to understand about space, and that's going to lead us into a more effective, potentially effective research when it comes to learning how to harness, open, and use portals to have that instant travel more so than using what we are now with just rockets using fuel and kind of taking its time getting from point A to point B, which when we look at it, it seems quite silly in my opinion, especially when in the 60s and 70s we expected to have a colony in space by the year 2000 and at the very least the year 2020. But here we are still just barely tasting that. We're not even there yet.
I think if there was some kind of concrete proof that there was life out there in the universe beyond the UFO mythology, and I don't want to just dismiss all the UFO stuff whole cloth, but I do believe most of the UFO stuff is a new type of mythology, a broad lore that is developed around the lights in the sky, and not to dismiss it, but to say, what's really going on out there boggles the mind, and I could say this: the rocket technology has been around since World War II. I always thought we'd be much farther out in space by now as a kid. If Starfleet was real, I would have signed up for it. I would have loved it. It's a shame that we're born in the wrong time to explore the stars.
I'm with you on that one,
Yeah.
Pete. I really feel it. Either I wish I was born in the early 1950s or born in the 2050s, and hopefully that we would kind of have space travel from there. But I'm totally with you on that. That we're just not in the generation, at least yet, where we are traveling the stars the way that we expected to, or the ways that it was portrayed in sci-fi TV
Yeah.
shows in the 60s and 70s.
Absolutely.
It's kind of
Absolutely.
disappointing, actually, when you look back on
It's
it. You're
very
like,
disappointing. I thought there'd be flying cars by now.
I'm still waiting on those. There are some in the works. We've covered it here on Weekly Strange News, but they're not publicly available just yet, and even their prices have not been made public either. But we can just imagine how eye gouging those will be.
I don't imagine it would ever be legal to fly cars around. I don't know how they regulate it. How would you put down flight paths for all these people driving all over the place? At what altitude could you fly them?
That's a good
I
point.
think it'd just be far too much air traffic for it to be ever legal.
But then people could drive on the roads, and there would be no traffic there. So it's one or the other. It seems like.
Yeah, I guess so.
But when we're looking at space and space travel, I would like to get into our next article that I feel is
Yeah.
very, very appropriate in regards to this. And that is scientists are beginning to attempt to work and understand how to get people and animals to hibernate so that they can travel across space. And this is all something that we've expected, that we have seen in movies and in books when it comes to sci-fi, because as we know, to get from Earth to Mars, it'll take several months. The
Right.
majority of that rocket's weight will be in fuel if we're going to go the conventional way. So it's not going to be too much space for water, for food. You're probably going to be bored out of your mind for the few months that you're going to be traveling from point A to point B. So what would be the best thing to do? Well, that would be to put the human body in a stasis, to place them in a type of hibernation so they're not using any resources, right? So when they get there, they're ready to go. So scientists are beginning to work on this, but this is another thing that I expected to have happened decades ago, and we're just, at least publicly, doing that research now.
Well, there's the private sector and the public sector. And I think that this kind of speaks to the idea of perhaps a partnership between the two. I don't know who's really behind this. NASA astronauts could hibernate on deep space mission thanks to certain research they've been doing. But I tend to lean in the direction that the public sector has technology far advanced than of what we know about, and they keep it secret. The private sector is playing catch up. And in maybe some regards, we've heard stories. I think some stories have trickled down of the government giving technology to private corporations to reverse engineer. I don't know if that's really occurring, and if it is, it's a really good way to cover up kind of things they found. But who can really reveal where it's coming at the end of the day? So I'm wondering who's sponsoring this research and to what end, because it may already exist. If there is already a secret space program, I'm sure they're already able to put people into stasis. This might be just them revealing the capability is coming, to the public in the future.
Researchers are studying hibernating Arctic ground squirrels with the goal of harnessing the benefits of this odd natural state to protect astronauts' health on long duration space missions. We are aware that when astronauts are just going from Earth to the International Space Station, they deal with muscle loss, they deal with bone loss, they even have eye issues as well, to the point where they have to actually wear correcting glasses while they're there to prevent that. And even then, it doesn't always work. So if they're in a stasis, they potentially might not go through that. But if we look at people that were in comas, right, which is in a sense a type of stasis, could potentially be classified as hibernation, but yet not at all, because the organs are still working at its full capacity compared to hibernation, where the heart might beat once or twice a minute. When we look at those people that are or have been in comas. That's kind of where, for many scientists, the confusion lies. How come it works for some animals, but not necessarily for humans? So that test is being done now. And I think that when that information comes forth, when they find the answers to that, it will make a big difference, not only for space exploration, but as the article also mentions by space.com, that it'll also help in the medical field as well.
You could use that in the medical field. The applications really for the ill and the terminally ill, especially, would be astronomical. If you found out something was really wrong, you could go into stasis until perhaps a cure or treatment is found.
Exactly.
It's kind of like the dream of cryogenics, to be able to wake up in the future. Unfortunately, with cryogenics, you already have to die before they can prep your body for the freezing process. But with something like a hibernative or stasis state, with medical applications, that's like a holy grail of medical science right there. That could be revolutionary.
Without a doubt. So that, in your opinion, Pete, when do you think we'll get these results? 10 years, 50 years, 100?
Well, the funny thing about it is, say you loaded a multi-generational spaceship with, a crew and put them in stasis and shot them out towards Alpha Centauri. What's to say we wouldn't develop a warp drive engine or learn how to fold space in the interim while they were gone for thousands of years flying there, and develop technology to not only pass them, but to colonize Alpha Centauri before they ever reached it?
That'd be really cool.
So it kind of would make, if we are approaching space travel, long distance space travel, deep space travel from our current level of technology, hibernation would make a big difference. But as soon as we're folding space, as soon as we've got transwarp engines, that hibernation stuff would be obsolete, and there would be rescue missions to go revive these people.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that would be a big part of any colonization effort, to go retrieve the multi-generational spaceships we shot off and bring them back. I don't think that's far beyond the realm of possibility. If things get too bad on this planet, I could see some kind of interstellar ark being constructed. Maybe a combination seed vault. Perhaps the DNA from many animals on the planet. However many humans it could hold, and then shoot it off into space and hope for the best.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, NASA said in a statement that this research could be used to help future missions from the extreme of medically induced hibernation for long-term space missions, protecting astronauts from cabin fever, ionizing radiation, and much more. It could also prove effective in preventing muscle and bone loss in zero gravity, which is a really big issue that astronauts and those going to the International Space Station endure during their time there, where they have to do, I think, like exercise every single day for about an hour or two to attempt to prevent this. And even then, they still have issues when they come back to Earth because of that zero gravity. So that's where it gets difficult, where we need to definitely work on that and make that information public for people at the International Space Station, because there are detrimental consequences when there's no gravity.
Mm-hmm. So, artificial gravity would be a great breakthrough. I mean, could you imagine? That would be a game changer for space travel. Artificial gravity.
If I was an entrepreneur, I would fund that.
Oh, good. Oh, the return on investment, especially when we get into mining asteroids for resources in the future, that's not too far off. Robotics is going to take over for that, and they're going to be sending out all kinds of strange drilling machines to bring back resources from asteroids. Whether or not that technology is going to be based on using rockets to get them up and back, who knows? There may be breakthroughs in the future that make it more cost effective. And the galaxy and solar system is rich in resources as far as we know.
At the end of the day, it's all about making a profit. So people are going to make those strides. Entrepreneurs are going to do what they have to do in order to get that return in investment.
Yeah.
So it's in our future. So
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
and here's this. Imagine. I mean, you could construct literal motherships her on Earth, right? And then using anti-gravity to float that thing into space.
Yeah.
Easy.
Goodbye, space elevator. We've got anti gravity technology. We're going to just take off.
I want to see that in my lifetime. But Pete, moving on.
Moving right along.
Where would you like to go
Let me
next?
see here. Let me find my place here. I'm a little discombobulated.
I
Okay, here
feel
we
that.
go.
It's me every day.
On this day in history,
Oh,
UFO
we're
sighting
going
in
there?
Madison County, 1977.
Oh, this was a cool one. Let me pull up a visual here that was depicted in a newspaper a while ago, attempting to describe what was being seen by two policemen back in
Nice.
1977. A hot time period to be alive. You had good music, you had good food, good fashion, and there
Mhm.
were a handful of very famous UFO sightings as well. So, do you want to tell this one or shall I?
Absolutely. On February 10th, 1977, two police officers, while on standard evening patrol, would witness a huge disc approaching their vehicle and hover over it for about a minute. What's more, on the same evening, several other reports would also surface. Now, Deputy Kenneth Creel and Constable James Luke, both of Madison County Sheriff's Department, were on routine patrol duty around the small town of Flora in Mississippi. Creel would spot the object first while driving approximately 4 miles outside of Flora. He at first thought it was a particularly bright star. However, the more he watched it, he realized it was growing rapidly brighter and bigger. The closer it got to them, the more the actual shape of the object began to become clear. By the time he realized it was distinctly disc shaped, he would radio the Mississippi Highway Patrol. As the object approached their location, passing over one of the fields that ran alongside the road, the shape of this strange craft became even clearer. When it was about 200 yards from their car, Creel stopped the vehicle. Each of the officers sat silently, attempting to hear any sounds that might be coming from the strange craft. A noise like a blender, like it was straining when you first put ice in it. Within seconds, the object was hovering directly over the patrol car, giving the impression it was being piloted as it did. The object remained in place, hovering over their patrol unit approximately 20 to 30 feet above them. Creel would recall looking directly up at the object from his patrol car. Although he couldn't see any occupants or pilots, he did report little windows on the craft with light coming out of them. This light, he would elaborate, would change color several times, including blue, red, and green. The officer would watch the object for around a minute before Creel started the engine and began slowly reversing so that he could turn the vehicle around. However, the object just picked up and took off, vanishing within seconds. There were other witnesses, and it was written in the papers after the incident. But to this day, nobody knows what it was.
If you enjoy the way that Pete reads, the way that I do, he does have his own YouTube channel called Creepy Little Book, and those links are in the description box below. And when he does his
Thank you.
shows, he's always reading like that, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Well, thank you very much. You humbled me.
Oh no. It's I'm humbled that you're here. But with this case that we're looking at here, there's a bit, and I've said this time and time again, but there is a difference when we are seeing pilots, military officials, and policemen having encounters versus a civilian. And why is that? Well, because they have a more trained eye. They have to go through classes in order to get their badge, in particular with policemen. Of course, they're not taught anything about UFOs, and even to present day, to my understanding, at least the policemen that I've spoken to, they don't have a class on how to handle a UFO encounter or a UFO sighting or even a UFO phone call if they ever get one, right? Via 911. But
That's true.
when they are seeing this, for the most part, they are analyzing the craft, they are drawing it, they are attempting to call their their station as well to see that if anyone else is seeing this. There were other witness accounts that were released to the public via the newspapers at that time, which at in that period, we would classify this story as going viral. Now, viral now and viral then are two very separate things. Viral now is
Yes.
in 20 minutes. Viral then was like a week. But
It's
aside,
true.
yeah, but aside from that, this is a very profound and a very interesting story, and it happened on this day in history, February 10th, 1977.
Now, again, I find this one fascinating because we're talking about a solid saucer shaped craft here, which included a description of portholes or windows that revealed light coming from the interior. Very different from the strange and anomalous lights in the sky that change shape and formation, appear and disappear. These kind of things are solid objects. They're perhaps piloted by something or someone. And I'll tell you, it's again a little far out on this. I firmly believe that if we were to encounter some life form from space, the possibility that it is artificial intelligence is not beyond the pale.
It's not. What's interesting about this case is that for a lot of UFO sightings, people don't actually hear a sound. In this story, the policeman had mentioned that it sounded like a blender,
Right.
as
Generally,
if it
UFOs
was.
don't produce noise.
No. And if it does, again, which is rare from the accounts that we've looked into, it's usually like a humming sound, maybe like an air conditioning sound. But here we're getting a blender when you first put ice in it. So that is strong, that is high pitched. And if anything, it might cause some irritation as well. Like, I cannot stand blending ice. I do love my frappuccinos, don't get me wrong there. But I have to like prepare myself when I blend ice.
Yeah, who knows how loud it was too? I'm wondering if they were straining to hear it, or if it was audible, maybe even loud. Maybe it
Right.
was something to the point where it was irritating to the ears. Uh, but you're absolutely correct in noting that these UFO sightings tend not to include auditory sensations or any kind of reports of sounds. So with this one, to be making that sound of a blender straining against the ice just leads me to believe, again, we're talking about a mechanical craft. So, could be one of ours.
Could be. In the
Could be.
1970s, there was a lot of technological advancements, so it would be hard to say. Hold on before you get onto that. Michael, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, absolutely fantastic. Both well done. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
And I would also say that I appreciate any support for the show and this channel and the RV fund. But if you are unable to give, just hit the like button. That makes such a big difference because it does help the YouTube algorithm to get it out to more people. So thank you to everyone watching this live and supporting the channel. But Pete, you wanted to add something to that. Tell us.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, the 70s were, at least 30 years after Roswell. So it does give you time to reverse engineer any craft that might have come down, if a craft did come down there. Likewise, World War II produced a lot of exotic technology that, might have made its way over to our scientists here in the States and could be responsible for some of these sightings that we have in the 50s and 60s. A lot of people contacted in the 50s and 60s are dealing with, for lack of a better term, human aliens. Their descriptions are of people from the stars. They're not really what you'd expect nowadays when we're so conditioned to think of the Greys or, a myriad of other fantastic species that may exist out there. But back then, it was star people and space brothers. They looked like human beings. So, who knows if they're ours or theirs, or time travelers, or space benders, or something like that. I'm so up in the air anymore about what might really going on behind all this. What might have started it. Is there some esoteric connection to all of it, going way back to Jack Parsons, famous rocket scientist? It boggles the mind.
That case, we just covered it on Tuesday, and that one is wild with Jack Parsons.
Yeah.
Cassidy, thank you so much for supporting the channel. It says Asteroid 16 Psyche is worth $700 quintillion. I don't even know how many zeros that is, but I think it's a lot. It's a lot of zeros. So thank you so much for supporting the channel and bringing out some really interesting information. But we would use anti-gravity to bring it down and mine it, maybe, in regards to that asteroid that you did mention, Cassidy. So I could expect that, hopefully, in my lifetime. That'd be nice.
I think so. I think it'll happen.
Maybe like 50 years from now. But yeah, asteroids, ton of money on them. Really good, interesting resources that can be mined and just become a trillionaire. There's not even a number. There's not even a word for it.
They might even find new fuel sources on these asteroids, maybe new things to make batteries from. Who knows?
Well, just like in the TV show The Expanse, great show, and they were mining asteroids there. It was that TV show in particular, for those that have seen it and those that haven't, I would recommend that you do. But it's a very interesting future vision that the show The Expanse provides their audience. It's, if we continue the way that we're going, this is how our future is going to look.
Yeah, I watched a few episodes of The Expanse. I lean more towards hopeful science fiction. I think The Expanse is a little dark.
Yeah, it's very corporate.
Yeah, very much so. It's realistic, I think. But I always really liked hopeful sci-fi, where people kind of worked out Earth problems and expanded their reach into the stars.
So, are you watching Three Body, Pete?
No, can't say that I am familiar with that.
I do recommend it. It's a Chinese TV show from the book. It's so stinking good, and it's a little bit somewhat more of a hopeful sci-fi show. So if you do have the time, that is what I do recommend. But it's very cerebral. Like it requires a lot of brain power to watch. That. Yeah, I love it. For those that are interested in Three Body, I did post it on my Twitter at eyes_on_the_skies. There you can find the trailer. And I posted a link and it got deleted. So if you want the link, you can just DM me and I'll pass it to you and you can watch it for free. Because it's on only a handful of people's Netflix. It's not on everyone's Netflix. And that's where it's kind of weird. But if you're interested in that, I will share the link with you.
Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, love it. Something that I found kind of more on the bizarre end. We've gotten some pretty serious articles that we've already covered already, but one that I kind of laughed at in a sense, but yet is very interesting is we've heard of sniffer dogs. Okay, we get these scary looking dogs that you're not allowed to pet and love on, and they smell your baggage. Well, now we're getting drug detecting squirrels instead of dogs. It's a bit confusing. I wasn't sure how I felt about it when I first got there, but at the same time, I always felt bad for the dogs. I just really wanted to pet them because they're like working so hard, I
guess the squirrels eat less than dogs.
Yeah, and they're a lot smaller, and it's believed because this is run by a Chinese city of Chongqing, and they're stating that these sniffer squirrels are smaller, faster, and have the ability to reach in higher places that dogs could never check. And I'm seeing a lot of squirrel jokes here that only seem appropriate in the live chat. Squirrels, that's nuts. Yeah, I saw these jokes coming.
Nice.
But they're funny.
This is kind of scary. I think that was something like this. I mean, how many infinite numbers of squirrels could you train to do this, and then, let loose to basically identify drug users everywhere?
That, when you put it like that, yeah,
slippery slope.
It can sound very scary because it's not because they're so small. It would be a lot harder to monitor. They can just go wherever they want, fit in any small little crack and crevice and go from there. But with dogs, they're usually easier to see. They bark when they smell these things. As for squirrels, like what's their signal?
Yeah, what do they do? I guess they shake their tails and squeak or something. I couldn't even imagine. Dogs are intimidating.
They are, but they're
Nobody's
also
scared of
so cuddly
squirrels.
and love. This is also true. Yeah, well, unless they're chasing you, I don't know. I'd be a little scared.
They're
'Cause
just
what,
helpless tree rats.
what if they have like I don't know rabies or something? I'd be kind of scared there. But aside from that, looking at this article, um, it's starting out with the Chinese. So far, they have trained 6 drug detecting squirrels. They are planning on training some more. They have seen some pretty good results because they mentioned that apparently scientists have been aware of squirrels' keen sense of smell for a long time, but rodent training methods were apparently not advanced enough until now. So for the most part, the reason to why they are training squirrels is because they're faster. They're they can reach high places, they're smaller, and I'm going to assume it's probably cheaper as well because they're so tiny they eat a lot less.
Yeah. It's all
They need
cost cutting.
every time.
Yeah. Cheaper to use squirrels, we're going to use squirrels,
It's true. And in this image, it looks like a stuffy. Like it does not look like a real squirrel.
It appears he has some kind of collar on. Is that perhaps a way to keep track of them, or
I
don't
would
know.
assume so. Because yeah, you're right. It does have this
Official
collar like
drug
thing. It
sniffing
looks like a zip
squirrel.
tie. Oh, it's actually a
Yeah.
rope. You can see the end right here. Because you could you imagine you're at the airport, right? And you have sniffing drug squirrels, not dogs. Imagine the amount of people you will scare if it's not on a leash. People would freak
Oh,
out.
well, just scurrying about, sniffing things? Yeah. Squirrels belong in trees, not in airports.
I'm with you on that one, 100%. But that's why I found this article just so strange. And this is Strange Weekly News. So, of course, we're covering it. But who knows what will be next? Are we going to get like sniffing locusts next or something? I mean, who
I think they're
knows?
just putting hardworking dogs out of a job.
Dang. Seems like it. Or
For
maybe
real.
even sniffing tarantulas. That's where the horror will lie.
I thought the part of the article where it mentioned that rodent training techniques weren't effective until recently. Like, what kind of leaps and bounds have they made in training rodents? How much money did that cost? Ridiculous.
No, it definitely is. But I would not want to be alive to see sniffing tarantulas next. We'll keep it at squirrels and then we'll kind of stop there because I don't want to see anything else. Thank you very,
I'd be
very
mad
much.
if I got busted by a squirrel.
It reminds me of this one episode. Before we move on, it reminds me of this one episode of Phineas and Ferb, where Candace had squirrels in her pants, and she's singing like this whole. I thought you would get it, but never mind. For those that are maybe in their teens and their 20s, will know the exact episode that I'm talking about from Phineas and Ferb, where it's like, I have squirrels in my pants. And then, like, just the song is a total jam. I will never be able to look at squirrels the same way ever since that moment. And I'll never see them the same now with knowing that they can now sniff out things, which is scarier than I expected. But moving on to our next article, Pete, it's your turn.
Yeah. Okay, let me get situated here. Since we were talking about squirrels, we squirrels. Not only do we have the NASA Arctic squirrels, not only do we have the drug sniffing squirrels, but we're gonna move right along to the woodpeckers.
Oh, yeah, this is another. Hold on. Let me pull up these images in just a moment. When
Okay.
this.
Oh, you've got images. That's
Oh
awesome.
my gosh. Yes, I do. But this story, Pete, take it away. Tell us about it.
Okay, so here we go with these woodpeckers. This is just ridiculous here, folks. A pest control technician investigating an insect problem at a California home made a startling discovery. About 700 pounds of acorns had been stashed inside the house's walls by woodpeckers. That's right. Nick Castro of Nick's Extreme Pest Control said he expected to find a dead animal inside the walls of a Glen Ellen home where residents reported seeing maggots and mealworms emerging from a wall. Castro cut a small hole in the wall of the second floor bedroom and was shocked when acorns started pouring from the opening. Castro and his colleagues discovered the acorns were piled about 20 feet high inside the wall. He estimated about 700 pounds of acorns were removed. The technician said he investigated outside the home and discovered woodpeckers had been poking holes in the chimney stack and had been stashing acorns in the opening for the past 2 to 5 years. He said the acorns eventually fell through into a wall cavity. Castro said it took about 8 hours to remove them all. He also said he repaired the damage to the home's exterior and added screens to protect the wood from the birds.
It's
like something out of a cartoon.
100%. I could not have said it better myself. And I just can't imagine the homeowner like seeing so many acorns just spilling out of her walls. And
I'd be furious.
Not only that, but not only getting acorns, you're getting all these bugs too. Maggots, mealworms, which is a whole nether issue within itself. Yeah. But looking at this, it was believed that it took about 5 or so years for all of these acorns to be collected, 2 to 5 years of about 700 pounds of acorns. I am surprised that a tree didn't grow through the wall at this point.
There was a whole ecosystem going on back there. It's terrible. That's just terrible. I would be furious. I would go Elmer Fudd on those woodpeckers.
Tina says, I'd move so fast. Well, that's the issue with being a homeowner, is that there's always something going on. There's always something that you have to fix. Always. When you're renting an apartment, yes, you don't own it. Yes, you can have like the worst neighbors on the planet living upstairs, for instance. But when you have a house, you got to pay a mortgage and then you got to fix everything like every single year.
All the time. Constantly fixing things.
I can't deal with that.
Especially
when it comes to acorns. Totally I bet it is. No, it probably is for a lot of people.
I'd be mad about the acorns, though, furious. Like, there would be nothing to contain my rage at those birds.
Probably not. Luckily, the pest control guy did fence up, patch up the area so that woodpeckers could no longer place their acorns, their stash in the chimney to get somehow through the wall. And it took several hours to clean all this stuff up. Believed to be about 8 huge trash bags of acorns were hauled out of the home. And then not only to remove all the acorns, you got to patch up not the whole house, but like little bits and areas of the house. You also need to bring back pest control to do all that spraying for all of the bugs that got attracted to those decaying acorns as well. So it's like one mess to another. It's like never ending. Oh,
I just couldn't imagine pulling the bugs out of the wall too. You're scooping acorns and bugs out of the wall. Get out of here. Burn the whole place down.
At this point, if there were cockroaches, I'd be like, yeah, definitely. Aside from that,
no question. Just get the dynamite and be done with it.
Jessica says it makes me itchy just thinking about it. I feel it. I feel that. And Wood says plague acorns. This could be a horror movie. Like this could be the next script to a horror movie. Forget blood like running down the walls. No, it's going to be acorns.
Acorns, woodpeckers, squirrels. It's like Disney gone wrong.
Where's Snow White when you need her? Okay, let me look at another. Let's see, which one should we cover next? I have another UFO video that I would like to share with you, Pete, and everyone watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, jump over to YouTube so that you can see all of the pictures and the videos that we will be sharing today. And I'm looking for that very specific article so I can be prepared. This one was filmed February 1st, 2023, and it's weird. I would like to hear your thoughts on this, Pete. I would like to hear the thoughts of those in the live chat as well. Do you think it really is a UFO? Does it have an explainable explanation? I'm going to let this play while reading this article to you, which is super duper short. This took place February 1st, 2023 in Mesa, Arizona. And there were several people that witnessed this, but we did get this one recording. According to a witness report, the person saw several orange balls in the sky, which were too big to be stars or planes. The balls remained stationary for several minutes before disappearing. And the sighting has sparked speculation about a possible connection to a rumored underground base in Mesa, Arizona.
Very interesting stuff here. Now, again, I always differentiate things like solid craft and saucers and cigars and tic tacs from these lights in the sky. Very different phenomenon we're dealing with here. I I'm very much unsure of what the lights in the sky might be. And the more research I've done into it over the years, the more unsure of it I become. Now, based on this belief, I also think that those who are in charge of protecting our skies and in charge of keeping this kind of information from us don't know much about it either. So I think it is the greatest mystery of our time, the true answer by what these might be. I mean, a myriad of possibilities exist, but I don't think that's solid craft. Could it be individual lights, each craft on its own, perhaps flying in a formation? Possibly. Could it be something else entirely? I've been leaning that direction lately. Real far out stuff. But, I'm not sure what they are.
And that's where it gets really, really difficult when speaking to witnesses or seeing UFO videos. As we had mentioned a little bit earlier, we're in this very unique time period where people are seeing things, people are believing, or being debunkers as well, but we're seeing a lot of CGI, and in this case, but also we are seeing more advanced technology. We have this explanation of Chinese lanterns, which is a possibility during this time frame. February 1st, we could expect Chinese lanterns in the sky. However, they wouldn't be this uniformed as we're seeing here. We're seeing two perfect straight lines. When we see Chinese lanterns, which are beautiful, for those that haven't seen it, I do highly recommend if you're able to go live or seeing it on a video. It is so magical, but it's very random. It's also very hard to control them, to put them in a perfect line, such as we are seeing here. Could it be some kind of advertisement that someone had mentioned? Possibly. It could be. I mean, that would be a great stunt, a great advertising stunt to make it UFO themed and have people look in the sky and then somehow buy your product, right? Genius. Don't get me wrong there. But with this, I'm very happy that this witness recorded this. I wish that there were more witness testimonies that were made public. But for the most part, it is very difficult to say exactly what it is because we weren't there.
Right. I'm going to say some weird stuff. What if each of those individual lights is a life form?
Okay.
What if they are? What if we were dealing with atmospheric beasts that might exist in our atmosphere that could explain these kind of things? These kind of sky jellyfish or space whales. These could explain phenomenon like star snot or star jelly. These things live, they die, they fall out of the sky, and they turn into slime when they hit the ground. What if those things are alive?
At this point, everything is on the table. We simply can't say no because we don't think that's the case. If they are all life forms, okay, it's a possibility. We simply do not know. And I
Mm.
think that it's much better to remain open-minded and filled with wonderment, filled with wonder, instead of being closed-minded and stuck to your belief.
Oh, absolutely.
Wood says solar parasites? That got dark real fast.
Yeah. These could be non corporeal intelligences. There could be an intelligence behind them, but they may not possess bodies. They might be light beings. They may have been here since the dawn of time. They could be ultra terrestrials that share the planet with us.
Could be. It's a big planet. I don't see why not.
I could explain a lot of folklore. Everything from elves and pukwudgies down to, the abduction phenomenon.
Absolutely. I am with you on that one. And while I have you on, Pete, I want to ask you this question. I just had Nathaniel Gillis on Tuesday, and we spoke about the abduction phenomenon and the connection with demons. Now, you have also looked into this. You do have a religious kind of sense background when you were younger.
Yeah.
You were asked to be a part of the priesthood. For those that haven't seen that interview, I do highly recommend it. You can find it here on this channel that goes into depth on who Pete McCarthy is from Creepy Little Book. But I would like to hear this aspect in regards to, are alien abductions, in your opinion, at least some of them, demonic? Because for the most part, they're pretty negative. People are scarred both on the body, but also mentally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This came up in an interview recently, and the question came up: what kind of person kidnaps a child in the middle of the night to do experiments on them? Nobody good. So if you've got aliens who are doing this, and it's multi-generational when we're talking about alien abduction, if you're in a family where you're getting abducted, then it's likely they're taking other members of your family, and they're going to take your progeny, and so on and so forth. Dr. David Jacobs has done incredible research into the abduction phenomenon. What's his name, too? Bud Hopkins. They did incredible research into hypnotic regression with abductees. These are negative experiences. There's nothing good about being an abductee. It's not like people's lives are changed for the better for it. If anything, it's probably the worst thing that can happen to you. Because there's nothing you can do to stop it. Unless, as in many instances, there are parallels with demonic possession. Then there's always a religious out. You could see whatever holy person in your faith is to try to resolve it through those means. But I don't doubt it much anymore. I think I really lean in that direction a lot, that we are dealing with non-corporeal, non-human intelligences. Do they need technology? I don't think they necessarily need technology. And that's the line between the things that look like saucers and rods and cigars and Tic Tacs and things that just look like lights. So I don't know at the end of the day. I think there's a lot of evidence, stuff like the Tertulli Papyrus that talks about fire in the sky and discs going back to ancient Egypt. I found reports that came from the early Americas, not even early Americas, but from 1865 on the Missouri River. And of course, there's the Aurora, Texas, 1891. These kind of things predate flight, or at least manned flight. A great airship flap of the 1880s. So I wonder, people have been seeing stuff in the sky for a long, long time. It's not just since Roswell. It's not just since Mount Rainier. It's not since 1947. It's been pretty much since the dawn of time. What they are, I don't know, but it makes a lot of sense that they're from here and not traveling the vast distances of the stars to get here. Where might they hide? The oceans, perhaps, the desolate places. If they are non-corporeal, they can hide among us. We could be surrounded by them at all times. Awash in them. They could just be everywhere.
And if they are doing research, as people have believed them to do so, it would make so much more sense to be enthralled in the environment that you're researching instead of looking at it from the sidelines, which is, good if you're just starting out. But if you've been doing the research for decades or even centuries, at some point you want to get really involved in what you're looking into, just like Jane Goodall when she was researching monkeys. She looked from afar at first, and then she got up close and personal with the monkeys that she was researching and attempting to understand as well. Why can't that be the same for extraterrestrials?
I wouldn't doubt that would be the case for extraterrestrials. But I think if extraterrestrials were coming here for any decent purpose, the abduction phenomenon wouldn't be happening. So maybe aliens are kidnapping people. Maybe it's something more sinister than extraterrestrials. Because you figure aliens, all right, say I'm an alien. Say I need some DNA. I'm only going to come here once and get it. How many times you got to keep coming? How many people you got to take? What are you doing? Are you cloning them? Are you creating a hybrid species out there somewhere in space of these things? And even biblical stuff speaks to hybrid species. It goes back to the Nephilim, the offspring of the offspring of the fallen angels that created the giants that roamed the earth in the ancient past. And whether or not you're a believer in that, the parallels exist between the Anunnaki and the Watchers. The Anunnaki of Zecharia Sitchin's, who many people believe came here and genetically engineered human beings, and the Watchers of the Book of Enoch, who many people believe descended from heaven and interfered with the bloodlines of human beings by producing offspring. So the possibility exists. There could have been outside interference in human history. Whether or not it was extraterrestrials or whether or not it continues to be extraterrestrials, I doubt more and more. If they had good intentions, they'd show up and reveal themselves. If they had ill intent, they could already wipe us out from orbit. So then what's their purpose? Is it purely scientific? Would that explain their ambivalence towards the trauma that they cause when they take people in the night? Maybe they don't have the capability for emotion.
You're bringing up some really good points, Pete. Things that we need to consider and look into. But at this point in time, nobody has the answers to this. And those that state that they have all the answers, they are straight up lying to you.
Yeah, you definitely have to watch out for people who have the answers. The phrase that I come back to over and over again is I don't know. And that's the case with like 85% of the stuff that I talk about here on YouTube. It's a matter of mystery. And the world's full of it. And I think to actually know would ruin it.
Well, then it wouldn't be mysterious anymore. Wouldn't be unexplained anymore. But for now, we have just the weekly strange news. We also live not only in a mysterious world, but a very strange one as well. Pete, what's the next article that you'd like to cover? Because the ones that we have left are in that very strange category.
They definitely are. I was going to go with the orange balls in the sky. Oh, we just did that one.
We just covered that one, yeah.
Yeah, that's not the one I wanted to do. I meant to do the snake.
Oh, I have the video for that one, too.
Yes, the snake.
This one is kind of grody, so it's not like...
So prepare yourselves.
yeah. Like, just be a little prepared. It's a short video. Let me pull this up here. But this took place, obviously, in Australia. No other place where something like this would happen. But as we can tell from this video... one snake is eating another snake, and yet you can see both of their heads, and they're both doing the tongue slithery thing, which is pretty darn scary if you ask me. But here we are looking at this larger snake, the black one. It is a red-bellied black snake, and the smaller snake with this head sticking out in the mouth is an eastern brown snake. I'm gonna play that video one more time. It's just weird. So this was posted on Facebook not too long ago, and people were just placing all these comments like, in my 8 years of catching, I have never seen anything like this. Like, great find, mate, as they say in Australia. When I say it, it just sounds so terrible, and I'm sorry. I was quoting there, but I've not seen anything like this, and I've covered a lot of snake articles here on Weekly Strange News. This one is weird.
This one is nightmare fuel.
It is. It is. I
It
mean, because
really
we
is.
are aware that there are a handful of snakes that eat other snakes. Like they do not have a strict diet. They will eat what they want when they want, whenever they feel like it. There have been a few snakes that have attempted to eat something bigger than themselves and have died. We have covered that here, which is pretty darn scary. In this case, the larger snake was able to eat the tinier snake, but the tinier snake is still alive and it's still doing the whole slithery thingy.
What a way to go. Gruesome.
only only in Australia, Pete.
That's a gruesome place.
Would you
Strange
go?
animals, giant monsters, spiders, and creatures like that. No,
Oh,
thank you.
no.
I've got friends down there, but they got saltwater crocodiles and great white sharks. It's scary.
It is, but let's say you were given a ticket to go to Australia and spend, let's say, a week there. Would you take that offer? Like totally paid for.
Uh, I don't know. I'm so obsessed with the ancient world that I'd rather see something like the pyramids or Machu Picchu or Puma Punko or Göbekli Tepe. The Parthenon, the Colosseum. These like ancient monuments to great empires that once ruled the earth. The Ziggurat of Ur, that would be. I mean, could you imagine standing in the shadow of that bad boy? That's really what it comes down to. I'm fascinated by the ancient world.
Okay, okay. Then let me switch up this question then for you.
Yeah.
If you were given a ticket to go anywhere in the world, anywhere aside from Antarctica,
Okay.
where would you go?
Ooh, I would love to do a vacation through Europe where I could take a train ride,
Oh, that's
like
nice.
through the Carpathian Mountains, maybe into Prague or somewhere like Transylvania. I would love to visit that part of the world. I just think it's like steeped in old traditions and
Mhm.
superstitions. Uh, Very interesting places that I'd like to visit. Of course, the pyramids. That would be number one on my bucket list. I'd love to see the pyramids.
That would be really, really cool. And when it comes to Europe, before I move on, what blows my mind about that continent is that you can go from country to country and they're all speaking a totally different language. With other
Yeah.
continents, overall, they speak genuinely the same language, or at least, that's derived from one language and then kind of pushed out, right? But when you're looking at Europe, you're just getting all of these different languages and some that do not match the other. Like Spain is an outlier when it comes to Europe.
Right.
It's so bizarre. So like yes, I think traveling would be amazing going through taking a train from one place to another. But like I hope you have Google Translate or like a
Definitely
good
gonna need
book
it.
next to you. Yeah, yeah, to get from one place to another because it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I can't see. I really wish I would have done Europe in like the '90s. I think it would have been a
Yeah.
very vastly different experience than it is now. I feel bad for Europe in a lot of ways. I feel like they've kind of lost a lot of what made them unique over the years. You know, just modernizing and modernization's a shame. Like we have so much great old stuff, and I cherish old things. Victorian homes I think are beautiful. Old cars. I don't know. I'm an old fashioned guy. I like old stuff.
And that is very fun. And when looking at Europe, it's a very ancient continent that has
Yeah,
where it still lives in its old culture, which I think is really beautiful. Compared to these more modern countries that kind of like take down the old and constantly building up the new.
yeah,
But it's all about preference. It's all about kind of what you prefer. But yes, Europe is a beautiful
absolutely.
place, and if you're given a ticket, that's where you would go. Just the whole continent of Europe. Just Europe
There's
in
so
general.
much to see. I mean, the castles, the fortifications, the standing stones, the churches on the lake. There's just so much to soak in.
Oh yeah.
I don't even think in a lifetime you could do it.
And probably not. No, I don't think so. But there seems that there was this person that had prostate cancer,
Hmm.
and to the point where he ended up getting an Irish accent. So, a rare form of prostate cancer caused a man in his 50s to suddenly speak with an accent that sounded remarkably like an Irish accent. And this we've seen a few times before, but this is really rare. It's actually called the foreign accent syndrome, or FAS. And in medical literature, there are only about 2 other reports of cancers triggering someone to have a totally foreign accent. I'm going to share an image here just as a visual aid while we continue with this. But this is we've heard about this before, very specifically with those that have had near death experiences.
Mhm.
But in regards to cancer, where it's able to totally change someone's accent, it's remarkable. And when I was reading this article, Pete, I was thinking to myself, imagine you walk out of the hospital, right, you walk in with one accent, you come out with another, and that's your permanent one. Like, how are you going to explain that to your friends and family and have them believe you?
Yeah, that is pretty strange. I mean, obviously there's a medical explanation for it, but how does that affect your day to day? All of a
Yeah.
sudden you're speaking in this, strange accent. I mean, I walk around talking in a strange accent already, so.
But see, it fits you because we're all so used to it. But if someone just changes it like that, and you're not an actor or even like a
Right.
uh one that's practicing
All of
acting,
a sudden you got a German accent or an Irish
yeah, and you're
accent, and
like,
it's just completely out of character, and it's caused by an illness. It's so bizarre how the human brain works. We don't even understand it. I think we know more about space than we know about our brains and our oceans. So great mysteries still abound, and even inside of our own bodies.
it is one case and one article that it's just very strange. Jonacide, thank you so much for supporting the channel. It says working but really enjoying the show. Hashtag ramen wagon. Thank you so much, Jonacide. So there have been other incidents, such as this one. The syndrome is most commonly associated with strokes, the FAS, or traumatic brain injuries. And the most famous case, for example, is a Norwegian woman in 1941 who suffered a head injury during the bombing of Oslo. And a few months later, she began to speak with what sounded like a German accent. And there has been another case a few years ago of a woman in Arizona who literally awoke speaking like Mary Poppins. In her case, that cause wasn't clear, but could you just imagine just being just someone from Arizona, and then one day you wake up and you just have like this such posh British accent? Either you're gonna love it or you're gonna absolutely be mortified.
Yeah, that's so bizarre. I don't know how. I mean, you got to figure, especially if it's somebody you've known for a long time. Like, I know if it was one of my good friends, and we kind of bust each other's chops pretty good. I think it was one of my good friends. I'd probably give him a hard time.
Oh, without a doubt. But let's say psychologically how this would affect people's minds. It would make them question, who am I? Because we define
Yeah.
ourselves the way that we act, the way that we speak, the way that we look. And when something changes so drastically, especially when it's not controlled, it you change your perception of yourself, and that can really affect people's psyche. And I wish that study was done on these people that suffer with FAS, because it's also worth researching on that. Like, how does it affect them psychologically?
I wonder if the voice in their head also adopts this accent.
This is a good question,
You
because
know?
we all talk to ourselves, and if you don't, then that's when you're crazy.
Yeah.
People that do are normal. But you're right, when you speak to yourself, you speak to yourself the way that you think you sound. And when you
Yeah.
scream at yourself, it sounds like you're screaming, but you're not actually screaming. That's where it gets weird. But that's a really good point that you made. When you think to yourself, are you thinking in that accent?
Yeah, because I would hate for my thoughts to sound like Scrooge McDuck or something like that. All of a sudden, I'm pondering the mysteries of the universe, and I sound like a Scottish millionaire.
It'll either help you or not at all. But this
It'd
is the
probably
kind.
drive me bananas.
Oh, It probably would, but this is a story also it kind of makes me wonder about reincarnation as well
Mm.
because there have been people who have woken up from comas with abilities that they didn't have before, like playing instruments. And then there are those odd cases where people speak an entirely different language.
Yeah.
What's going on with that? And is that evidence of reincarnation?
Yeah, I've looked into reincarnation over the years. I paired it with a lot of astrotheology and sacred geometry. It was kind of parallel studies I was doing with this stuff. The argument can be made by some that even the Bible supports some belief in reincarnation. Uh, or that the belief in reincarnation was not at least alien to those people who wrote the text of the Bible. It would have been something they would have been familiar with. So I don't know. I think there's been some really compelling studies that have been done when you talk about past life regression in especially children who
Oh, yeah.
remember their past lives. I think they're closer to the source, so they tend to have better memories with this kind of stuff. I know there was a famous case with a kid who he turned out to be a woman that died in a fire. Another case with a kid that was a Hollywood producer who was involved with Gone with the Wind in his past life. There's been some compelling studies. I think the Society for Physical Research at the University of Virginia does past life regression studies. And they're at the forefront of this kind of research. So maybe there is something to it. I don't know. I personally, I don't believe in reincarnation. But, I can see why some people do. It's a comforting thought, that we get to do this again, that we come back to what we're familiar to. We get to live life again, experience the human experience. But, for me personally, I doubt it. I think maybe we get one trip around.
Well, we have a few minutes left and two more articles to cover,
Uh-oh.
Pete. And they're both pretty strange. Which one do you want to cover
Okay.
next?
Let's see. The monkey one. Let's do the monkey one.
Ah. So, between you and me, and this might sound weird, but I am not super fond of monkeys. I find them like low key a little scary. And this Venezuelan influencer let a monkey give him a tattoo. Yeah, right? Like what can you add to that? Like what could you possibly say?
Once a buddy of mine let me give him a tattoo, and he still got it. It's still there. It said let a monkey tattoo you. I guess it's good for a story, but I question the artistic ability of a primate.
This is the definition of strange because in the article it mentions that this monkey had 2 hours of training. And then it's like, all right, now you're a tattoo artist. Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah,
There we
exactly.
go.
Like
What did he
that's
do?
how
Just
you do
squiggle
it.
lines on the guy? Like, what's the Did they show the tattoo?
The tattoo ended up being a square blob. Like that's what it was. You
Oh,
can find that link in the description box below once this live show is over. There's a whole video that you can actually watch and see the process of him going to Mexico, finding a tattoo artist that also has a pet monkey, and then going from there. But the image of the finished tattoo was a square. Like I'm even surprised it looked that good. So there was actually a lot of controversy in regards to this story because it went viral instantaneously because this is the
right.
first time, at least that we know of publicly, where a monkey gave someone a tattoo. But the Venezuelan influencer did mention that there were safety precautions. There was even we even had done sanitation measures as well. So like everything is fine. Everything is a
Oh,
okay.
good. They
Yeah,
wash the
right. Like
monkey's
yeah.
hands.
Yeah. Woo.
Come here,
But
monkey.
this
Wash your hands before you do tattoos. No germs here.
come on, we trained
Sanitization.
you.
Two
Get it
hours of
together.
training.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. 2 hours of training. That is pretty unbelievable. But this is a story that is so strange. I would never. That's just me right there. I'd be like, nope, that is no. Just, I mean, no.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I'm a little too picky when it comes to tattoos to let a untrained monkey permanently mark me for the rest of my life.
He was trained, Pete, for 2 hours.
Oh, you're right. Right, 2 hours. I forgot the 2 hour training session there. You know, how far have we fallen as a society when anybody will do anything to go viral? It's just, oh my god.
Yeah, when you put it like that, you're absolutely right. When we look online, when we look on TikTok or Instagram, or even when we're out in public, we see
Oh
people just
yeah,
doing the weirdest things. And this also
just
goes for celebrities as well, where they'll
oh
just do like the next weirdest thing just to get that attention to go viral and then to be forgotten about in 2 weeks, because that's how
yep.
viral videos work in this society now, is that you're going to be famous for 2 weeks. You're going to make maybe a few hundred, if not $1,000, and then people are going to forget you. There's very few videos, very few memes that have passed like the age of time. One of them being the short little red-headed boy that says, "Apparently, I went on the roller coaster, and apparently," and I'm like, that's one of my favorite videos right there. But aside from that, they don't. They're forgotten about really
It's flash
quickly.
in the pan. Everything is these days. You know, everything is disposable. Everything is flash in the
Yeah.
pan. Everybody gets their 15 minutes of fame. It's and it just boggles me what people are willing to do to chase that 15 minutes of fame, whether it's TikTok dancing at Home Depot or
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to Mexico to find a tattoo artist who just so happens to have a monkey. You know, like it's too much. It's too much. We need aliens to show up.
It depends on who you ask, but some might think that we have fallen way too much, and others think that like, no, we're pretty great. But Tina remembers the exact video that I'm talking about, and I'm happy that there's someone here that knows what I'm referring to, because that one is it's just funny, such a funny video. Okay, let me ask you this, Pete. Out of all
Yeah.
the memes and out of all the videos, which ones has to be your favorite that like went viral that you can just look at and laugh every time you see it?
I love the surprised gopher.
The one that's
It's like dun dun dun. The gopher turns around with his eyes all big. Yeah, I always love that one. It's from like a Japanese game show or something. I don't know where it originated, but I'm pretty sure it's from a Japanese game show. It's just surprised gopher.
I thought you were going to
Uh,
refer to the one that's like screaming, and it's like this really nice scenery in the background. It like breathes in
oh
and like
yeah, yeah.
screams.
I've seen that one too.
That one's also really funny. But Pete, we have one more article to cover, and then we'll be done for
Okay,
today. And
there it is.
many of you are probably aware of WD-40. We use it all the time, especially if you own a house, if you're some kind of mechanic, if you're a crafter of any kind, you're going to have WD-40 in your house. Well, there is now a cologne, because people apparently love this. Apparently, they love the smell so much that they made it into a cologne, and it's gotten so Pete, it got so popular that as soon as it was released to the public for people to purchase, it sold out. I went and I
Wow.
checked the website again to see if it's available for purchase. It is still sold out, and people paid $48 a can for this
$48.
perfume
That's
cologne.
pretty pricey for WD-40. I mean, I mean, is this a novelty item or I mean, are they serious? Like, does it smell like WD-40? I'd be disappointed if it
It,
didn't.
I, I'm gonna assume it does. Between you and me,
Yeah.
I do not like the smell. I feel like it's intoxicating.
Yeah. No,
It's
it's a
not for
powerful,
me.
powerful odor.
Yeah, it's
Definitely a
potent for
very
sure.
chemical smell. Yeah.
Yeah, so why would
Uh,
you want to put that on yourself? Well, it says here that there's this product can be used for about 2,000 applications. However, it does state that do not put it on your body. Like, do not lubricate yourself with it,
yeah.
because like it's toxic as that you could ever imagine. To the point where they're like, but you know what? We're making such good sales. There's so many memes about having WD-40 as a cologne or perfume. Let's go for it. But if we're going to make it, let's make it pricey and see who's really a fan, right?
You know, I always thought barbecue sauce scented cologne would be, a thing. You know, how what smells better than barbecue sauce?
Flowers, barbecue sauce. I mean, I guess for some people,
Yeah,
but
for
as a
real.
cologne, last week I covered pasta water scented candle.
That's
And then
gross.
and then the week before was KFC scented incense. So we're just getting really weird scented items here on this show. I don't know why this is becoming a thing, but apparently it is. So for those in the live chat, Pete as well, if you were given this, would you use it as a cologne?
It depends on how it smelled. I don't know. I'm an old fashioned guy. I just use a little Old Spice aftershave. So, you know, that's kind of how I keep it. If you're wondering what scent I love, it's Old Spice. But I would give this a whiff. You know, if it was a pleasant aroma, if it smelled a little, of pleasant undertones, I'd say maybe. If it just smells like WD-40, I don't know. That's kind of weird, but hey, well, it's like I was telling you before we started. I like the smell of gasoline, so don't let me judge anything.
And what a great way to end today's show. Pete, where can people find you online?
Absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you for having me,
Thank
and
you.
for all of you in the chat. You can find me right here on YouTube at the Creepy Little Book. I consider myself a master of mysteries and antiquary of the arcane. We cover everything from the esoteric to the extraterrestrial, the spiritual to the supernatural, and all that lies between. You can find my live streams as well as my pre-made videos all over my channel. So join us and get in on the fun.
And all of his links are in the description box below. Pete, I'm going to put you backstage, okay?
All right, sounds great. Thank you again. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Out of all of the articles that we covered today, which one was your favorite? Of course, we had to bring in a snake article because it seems like we're always talking about snakes right here on this channel. And lately, we've been covering just some super weird scented items. WD-40 cologne is bizarre. I cannot even comprehend it. But out of all the articles that we covered, which one was your favorite? Please let me know in the live chat. Please let me know in the comments as well. When you comment on YouTube, it really does help the YouTube algorithm and it really helps me as well. If you want to continue this conversation, bring it over to the Discord server with about 1,300 other like minded members where it's available 24/7. People are always online. So go ahead and take a look at that Discord server. It is a safe and friendly place for anyone to join. The link is up here on the screen. It's also in the description box below. For those that enjoy space ambient music, I do have another music channel called Cosmic Portals, and I just released a new soundtrack called The Ice World Colony at 432 hertz, which is a frequency that's supposed to soothe the mind. So if you need help relaxing, sleeping, meditating, or even studying as well, play this track. You're really going to enjoy it. Right now, we have about 800 subs. Let's bring it over to 1,000. Let's do this. There's a bunch of really awesome tracks, and there are many, many more space ambient music tracks to come. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we do several live shows every single week. So also make sure to hit the notification bell on YouTube. That is it for today. I will see you next time. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.